Good afternoon. This is Damon Fordham in front of the the original old slave market of Charleston, over at number 6 Chalmers Street. Now, I have to make it clear that this is the actual slave market of Charleston and not the one that's over on South Market Street that's commonly referred to as the slave market. There was never any slave sales there. Because that was forbidden by Charles Coatsworth Pinckney, who deeded that land to the city of Charleston back in the late 1700s. But this place that you see behind me, though, the Old Slave Mart Museum, you see the words Mart up there. This was owned by a man named Thomas Ryan back in the 1800s. And essentially, there was the slave market over at the old Exchange building on the corner of Broad and East Bay Street, but there were public slave sales there, which the public found disgusting since they had them all naked and chained and families being separated and women being fondled and all that kind of thing in public. People got tired of that, and they notified the mayor of Charleston, who proceeded to have Thomas Ryan, who owned this place, use it so that they could be sold on the inside, so that people wouldn't be able to see it on the outside, and the city would still make its money. But while all that information is important, it's important to know a couple of the human stories of the slave market. One of them deals with the fact that the first person that Thomas Ryan sold here in 1856 was a 20-year-old young lady by the name of Lucinda. Very little known fact. And we know very little about what happened to Lucinda after that, but here's a little something that we do know. After the Emancipation Proclamation and the fall of the Confederacy and so forth, there was a reporter from Boston by the name of Charles Coffin who came down here to write about Charleston after the Confederacy fell. The city was very devastated, physically speaking, and he came to the slave market here on number 6 Chalmers Street. And the building, of course, was very devastated by the shelling of the Union Army and such. And while he was here describing this in his notes, there came a black lady by the name of Dinah Moore, who basically started a conversation with Charles Coffin about the slave market. And there was time that through these windows, there was at one point an auction block back in the day, long before it became a museum. So Dinah Moore pointed to the auction block and told Charles Coffin, "Mister, you see that auction block?" And Charles Coffin said, "Yes, what about it?" And she replied, "The last time I saw my husband, he was sold from that block." Yeah. So she said that in such a casual tone that it struck Charles Coffin like a dagger as to what kind of things really went on in places such as this. So it was abandoned for a number of years, and it became a museum as we know it today in 2007, and people can come, and it's a very educational place. It talks a lot about what happened in Africa prior to the slave trade, which is one of the things that I like about it, as well as tells stories about resistance and such. But in studying and learning about a place such as this, it's important to learn the people's stories of what actually happened inside the walls of places like this, because in every building you have a history, and often that history dies with the people who lived through it. So if you have to understand the importance of a place such as the slave market, it's important to know stories like the one I just told about the people who actually survived such places as this.